Okay, already late. Like, really late. Let's make sure we got everything going here. Let's see, that's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. The stream is live. Are we good to go? God, I hope we're good to go. Okay, let's get this started. Hello, Shadowcat back, and whew, rough morning already. Did not anticipate being this late, but I mean, here we are, so let's hope that things get better from here. Let's face it, they're not going to get better from here, because I know what we're starting off with today, and it's not going to get any better from here. I'm not looking forward to this. But let's see, let's go through the good things. We're here, and I look at the chat, and there's people in the chat, so hello Blizzard, good to see you. Hello JP, good to see you too. Unfortunately, the little wave animation that I had still isn't working, and I haven't had time to work on it, so yeah, I still don't have that. So we'll just work on it another time, and we're gonna get to work on the on the module today. Now, like right now, we're gonna get started. And yes, JP, your star is orange now. I did notice that. I don't remember exactly what orange means, but it's a good thing. I would have to look it up in all of my different settings and see exactly what orange means. I wonder if I can mouse over it. Does mousing over it do anything? No, it does not. I'll figure it out later. Either way, I'm glad to have you here. Okay, so, we are doing bad things today. And they're bad, and I don't want to do them because the very first thing that we have to do today is going to be Infect, and I don't like Infect. I think Infect is a bad ability, and I hate it. JP says orange is the 1 year color. Is it? Has it really been a year already? Wow. I had no idea. Damn. Well, thank you for being here for a year. I mean, technically longer than that, because I was doing this before I even was allowed to have things like channel membership, so, you know, good on you. Thumbs up. Okay. Enough stalling. We have to do this. I don't want to do this. Okay. We have to do Infect. Oh my god, I hate Infect so much. Alright, so let's get into what the ability actually is. And then we'll try and figure out what we're going to do with it. So, Infect, and I believe we already did Poisonous. Infect and Poison are essentially the same thing. Did we do Poisonous? Where would it have been? God damn, I keep trying to sneeze. Stop it. Here it is, Poisonous. For Poisonous, we turn it into a literal poison. So, if you are affected, it's going to deal damage equal to the mana cost and the amount of HP damage that it would normally do. Which means that some of them could be really bad, some of them could be pretty good. Infect is going to be largely the same. JP says, you're an adult and a cat. By both definitions, you can do what you want. This is technically true. And yet at the same time, I'm bound by my own sense of obligation. Alright. Infect is a keyword ability from Scars of Mirrodin. I know this much. Stormscale is 7. So I guess they don't want too much. But there's 56 cards that come with Infect. That is like 56 cards too many. Okay? Alright, so, a creature deals, this deals damage in the form of -1/-1 counters and and players in the form of poison counters. If a player has 10 or more poison counters, they lose the game. In Two-Headed Giant, it's 15 or more. Infect is centered in black and green. There's also some artifacts having the keyword. Of course, this came out in Scars of Mirrodin, so obviously there's going to be artifacts that have it. It combines both the Poisonous and Wither abilities. In Mirrodin Besieged, the mechanic was expanded to white and finally spread to red in New Phyrexia. As with its related mechanic Proliferate, Infect is a Phyrexian theme. Each creature with Infect... Oh god, I never considered combining Infect and Proliferate. That would be awful. Wait, does Proliferate mean only tokens you control or just any token on the field? They choose any number of players and or permanents with counters on them, then put another of each kind of count. Oh, so no, you can target the Infect counters on somebody else's creature. Infect gets worse every day. And JP says, wouldn't Wither be a side effect of poison? Well, yes, no, kinda. So we gotta go back through these a little bit then. Obviously, with Infect, it deals damage in -1/-1 counters, and if it deals damage to you, it's in the form of poison counters. Now, in Constructed, you have 20 hit points. And that means that you have 20 hit points. Normally, you would need to take 20 damage to lose the game. With poison counters, not so much. With poison counters, if you accumulate 10 of them, then you lose. And you cannot get rid of them except with very, very specific cards. If you have a card that just says, you know, you gain X amount of life, it does not take off the poison counters. So when we're looking at these, we look at the Poisonous, and this says Poisonous N. Whenever the creature deals combat damage, that player gets N poison counters. This is the part that targets the Planeswalker. And then Wither is the one that deals damage in -1/-1 counters. And so Infect just combines the two of them so that the creature does both. Because, essentially, you can't put -1/-1 counters on yourself. Which is why creatures with Wither just dealt normal combat damage if they did damage to the actual player. And creatures with Poison technically don't do anything special to a creature, because it just says that if it deals damage to a player, a Planeswalker, they take that damage in the form of counters. So it is literally just both of them combined into one. Which means, given that we have done both of these already, we should just be able to combine both of them into one. So when we look back here, we just had it. Where was it? Oh wait, here's one. So here's Wither. This creature does not deal damage. Instead, on a successful attack, the target takes -1 strength and -1 constitution. Now, this is interesting because this actually can affect the Planeswalker, your character. So in Magic the Gathering, you don't really have stats, you just have hit points and that's it. But when we're playing Pathfinder, you will have an entire character sheet. And so if you get hit with a -1/-1, well, it's gonna hurt. The same thing is also true with Poisonous. So if you get hit, it's a DC of 10 plus the poison amount. And then the frequency equals the mana cost, and it's 1d the poison amount of HP damage. So if we come down here and we look at, say, here we go, Scourge Servant. Let me scroll that down just a little bit. Here we go. Okay. So here is a black creature card with Infect. It is a 3/3. And so the being a 3/3, if we check our rules again, if it hits you, it is going to deal, because it has Wither and Poisonous, it's going to deal to you -3 Strength and -3 Constitution. Now, I just went on a whole tirade there about how much I really hate Infect. And the reason why I hate Infect is because you're dealing with like half of your life pool. They're nearly impossible to get rid of. It's just bad. I think it's unfair, frankly. I really think that Infect is unfair. I mean, maybe not as bad as Annihilator, but in my book, pretty close. Anyway, though, let's say that this thing is attacking you as a character in Pathfinder. And let's say that you have, let's give you average heroic stats. I mean, perfectly average would be 10s. Oh god, wouldn't that be awful? Actually, why don't we do that? Let's go with the average person, okay? The average human in Pathfinder. 10s across the board, okay? You are a peasant. Alright, maybe you're a farmer or something like that. You go out, you do work, and that's it. And you get hit by this thing. I mean, first things first, let's bring up ability scores so we can track exactly how this is going to work. So, these things are going to deal damage in -1, -1 counters. So, -1 strength and constitution. So, you're a human, okay? You've got a 10. So, it literally says you can pull your own weight. Let's say that this thing, this scourge servant comes wandering through your village, and you grab your pitchfork and you rally to the village defense, and this thing looks at you and just backhands you. Okay? So it's going to do, essentially, because, well, we haven't done the rules yet, but if we go with the normal rules, it costs 5 and does 3 damage, so 5d3 damage. Assuming that didn't kill you outright, because we're talking a minimum of 5 damage and a maximum of 15. It's also going to deal to you, well, actually it wouldn't do the normal damage because it's Infect. It's going to do 5d3? No. No, let me think a second. It's going to do 1dx, I believe, according to this. Yeah, 1d poison amount, so 1d3 for each of these, or for each round. So it'll be 5 rounds of 1d3 poison damage plus -3, -3 strength and constitution. Now, here's where that gets really, really super insidious. Did I even put a cure in here? I don't think I did. There's a fortitude DC, so that'd be plus the poison amount, so that's a 3. So it'd be a fortitude DC 13. And it's going to go on because the frequency is the mana cost for 5 turns of 1d3 damage. Now, the question I suppose there is it going to be constant strength and constitution damage? I don't know. This could get really awful. Okay, let's think like worst case scenario here. Because it's doing both. That fortitude save is reliant on your constitution. So whether the wither effect or the poisonous effect takes place first is important, because it's going to change that fortitude save. If you got hit with this thing, and JP says, why you gotta bring the farmer into this? He didn't do anything. The poor peasants. Well, yeah, obviously. But you know what? I'm not the one who invented assailing the village with monsters, okay? It's been a trope since Gary Gygax invented Dungeons and Dragons. There has to be something bad going on so the heroes can come in and save it. So let's just say that this farmer is, you know, he's trying to defend, he gets hit. Let's say that the Wither effect is the first thing to hit. The first thing that happens is he immediately takes a -3 to strength, which is going to take him from a 10 to a 7. Immediately, his attack bonus, or his attack roll and his damage roll are going to take a -2. And that's just bad overall, because now it's going to be harder for him to hit the thing, and even if he does hit it, harder for him to even hurt it. But let's come down to Constitution. Again, we're starting at 10, because this is humans. Occasionally contracts a mild sickness, average human healthiness. By getting hit, it's going to take a -3 to Constitution. Bring it down to a 7. This, of course, is a -2 modifier to the Constitution. Usually prone to disease or infection. Well, now, remember, we said it was a DC 13 because 10 plus the poison amount, in this case the infect amount, which is 3. If your typical average farmer... Actually, I have stats for this. I have stats for this. Where are my classes? We're going to go all the way down to the bottom. Here we go. Commoner. So commoners have no good saves. They have no attack bonus and they have no good saves. Every other level, they gain +1 to all of their say. Oh no, it's not even every other levels. Okay, never mind. So yeah, with no good saves, that means that the villager is gonna have to roll a 13. Normally. However, if the Wither effect takes place first, that means they get a -2 to their Constitution, which means a -2 to their Fortitude save. Meaning they now have to roll a 15 to resist the poison. And given that they only have a D6 hit die, the Wither effect takes effect, dropping Strength and Constitution. The Poison effect then takes effect, dealing 1d3 damage, with basically no way to resist it. Okay, yeah, this is still going to be horrible. JP says the villages started that lie so they'd have the crown support to run the monsters off their own lands for colonial human expansion. They weren't attacking villages, they were defending their homes. Yes, I'm sure that's what Big Goblin wants you to believe. I don't care what Big Goblin says. We're going to kill the goblins. Okay, so let's start with the rules here. This is going to get bad. So first things, we're gonna hit the Wither effect. So this creature does not deal damage. Instead, on a successful... Can I spell? Attack, the target takes a -1. Actually, I just copy that wholesale and then just keep adding on. A -1 strength, -1 constitution penalty. for each power. So for each power means that if it deals 3, or if it has 3 power, it's going to deal a -3 strength and constitution. Alright. Then, because we're combining both of these here, then target must save versus poison, fortitude DC 10 plus power, frequency equals the mana cost. And let's see. For poison, where was it? I know it wasn't that far up. There's Wither. There we go. Okay, we were doing HP damage. So frequency equals mana cost. And then oh, actually I need to adapt this. It's going to be 1 turn per mana cost. I'll have to change the other one as well. 1 turn per mana cost. And it's going to be 1d power HP damage. Okay. And I still can't spell anything. Alright, so that should do it. Which, I mean, this is bad enough. JP says wither equals entropy. Kinda, sorta. That's kinda what's generally implied. Either they're growing weaker due to old age, due to negligent conditions, however you want to swing it. The wither is essentially, yes, just entropy. So there we go. I think that's good enough. I mean, that's already terrifying. So if one of these creatures is on the field and it hits you, like, you're gonna have a bad day. It's going to be everything that the poison has had, and it's going to be almost impossible for you to resist the poison. And I hate it. Okay, moving on to something that's hopefully not nearly as bad. What is Battle Cry? Alright, Battle Cry is a triggered ability introduced in Mirrodin Besieged. I can't speak today. Gives a +1/+0 bonus to each other attacking creature, thus being more or less an inversion of Exalted. Huh, interesting. Now, let's go back and review what we did with Exalted, because when we looked at Exalted, we said that because they all have their own turn, the general properties of Exalted don't really apply. So what we said with Exalted is that this creature gets a +1 strength and constitution for each other Exalted creature you control. These bonuses end on the end of the creature's turn. So you only get a temporary bonus on your turn. It ends after your turn. If this is an inversion, it gives a +1/+0 bonus to other attacking creatures. This being more or less the inversion of Exalted. So let's take a look. I think I actually just want the example. Just give me an example. So we got the Goblin Ward Driver here. It's a 2/2 that costs 2 to play, and it's got Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gains +2. Okay, so it's only when this creature actually attacks. That makes sense, actually. I thought that it was just kind of a constant. Right. So, again, we run into the same problem of creatures do not attack together. And so, how are we going to word this? And I think I know how, actually. If every other creature is supposed to get this, technically, this is going to last until the end of your turn, or until possibly the end of your next turn. Or at the end, till the end of their next turn. Okay, I have an idea here. I have an idea. This is actually going to be pretty easy. It's either that or we got to give him a feat, because I think that Battle Cry is an actual feat. And I don't want to do that. So here's what we'll do. Right. So when this creature attacks, every other creature you control gains +1 strength until the end of their turn. And that should be very simple. That means that every other creature will get the bonus on their turn until the turn order comes all the way around back to this creature. At which point, if they attack again, Battle Cry triggers, and all of your other creatures get a +1 strength until the end of their next turn. Now, is this good? Is this bad? Is it abusable? Kinda, sorta, maybe a little bit, not really. If you had a whole bunch of these creatures out, then technically speaking, if all they did was attack on every turn, then they would all give each other +1 strength. That means that it does stack. However, it can only stack so much. And for the creatures that we're talking about here, is it really a problem? I mean, just using this one as an example, the Goblin War Driver. It costs 2 to play, so you gotta be at least level 2 to play it. That means at level 2 you can cast 6 spells a day, I think. Is it 6 spells a day? Let me double check. Level 2. Yeah, 6 spells a day. So technically speaking, you could have 6 of these guys out. Which means that if every single one of them was attacking in unison, all using the Battle Cry, it would be a +6 strength on all of them. However, that would require you to use every spell you had for that day casting them. It would take 6 turns to set it up. And it would essentially give them, assuming that we're translating these, and this would be a 12 strength, it would mean that all these goblins would have an 18 in strength. Which is, you know, big, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I largely think this is not unbalanced. No, I think this will work. Alright, I'm inclined to leave it be then. Okay, next up. Living Weapon. This sounds fun. Alright. Living Weapon is a keyword ability introduced for equipment cards in Mirrodin Besieged. It was reused in New Phyrexia, the Commander series, Modern Horizons 2 and 3. The idea was later adapted for Phyrexia All Will Be One, yielding similar keyword for Mirrodin. Okay. So, what do it do? When this the card Living Weapons enters the battlefield, it creates a 0/0 black Phyrexian germ creature token that attaches itself to it. Thus, living weapons are themselves creatures until they die or their controller chooses to upgrade a different creature. With the detaching of the equipment and killing the germ, as it is now a 0/0 creature, due to state-based effects, it is put in the graveyard and ceases to exist. I guess that means that any living weapon creature must at least give a +0/+1, otherwise the token would just immediately die. Still though, I mean, I'm here for it. This sounds awesome. There's 19 cards with this on it. So let's take a look at the example. Oh wait, so the mechanic leans towards making artifact creatures on rate, which consequently makes for high equip costs, and trading off the germ is otherwise free. The equipment grants much higher stats than conventional equipment. Some trade-off are cheaper. Okay, let's take a look. The Flayer Husk. Alright, so it only costs 1 to play. It's a living weapon. When it comes in with a token. The equipped creature gets +1/+1, meaning that the token would be a +1/+1, which is what keeps the token alive. As soon as you move it to something, the token dies. I'm going to have to assume, though, because it says when the equipment enters the battlefield, I guess that would mean that if the creature that had this on it died, the equipment was not, or is not going to get that black token back. Because it's not entering the battlefield, it's already in the battlefield. So once the germ token is gone, yeah, that doesn't come back as far as I can tell. Still though, I like this. I do. I like this. And interestingly, I think we can simplify this. So there is there's a magic weapon ability. Pretty rare, but we've heard of these things, especially if you ever saw Castlevania on Netflix. You'll be familiar with this as soon as I point it out. I want magic weapons. And then I want properties. And I'm looking for dancing. So as a standard action, a dancing weapon can be loosed to attack on its own. It fights for 4 rounds using the base attack bonus of the one who loosed it and then drops. While dancing, it cannot make attacks of opportunity, and the activating character is not considered armed with the weapon. The weapon is considered wielded or attended by the activating character for all maneuvers and effects that target items. While dancing, the weapon shares the same space as the activating character, can attack adjacent foes. The dancing weapon accompanies the activating character everywhere, whether they move by physical or magical means. If the activating character has an unoccupied hand, they can grasp it. While it is attacking on its own is a free action. When so retrieved, the weapon can't dance or attack on its own again for 4 rounds. So we already have this. I don't see a reason why we couldn't just use that. PC Unicorn's in the chat. Hello, good to see you. And PC Unicorn says, huh, that's where the dancing scimitar creature must have come from. Yes, every single weapon you've seen that acts on its own is essentially just a dancing weapon. There's a lot of them. Because they are incredibly cool. I already mentioned Alucard's sword from Castlevania, but let's see, what else can I think of? There was the Elven sword in God of War Ragnarok. So that was a dancing sword. You mentioned scimitars, I think. What was that drow's name? I can't think of it. No, I can't think of it. But there's a famous drow in Dungeons and Dragons. He's got 2 special scimitars. And I think that one of them has dancing on it as well. Is there anything else I can think of off the top of my head? Not really, but there's a lot of them. I'm just not good at thinking of them. Anyway, though. JP says Drizzt. Yes, that was it. Could not remember his name. But yeah, I think there's a lot of them. I don't necessarily want to give this because, technically speaking, this living weapon is a creature token. And so, it doesn't necessarily have to stay in your square like a dancing weapon. And PC Unicorn says, actually was thinking of the literal Magic the Gathering creature dancing scimitar. Really? Let's look it up. Let's look it up. I'm just going to type in dancing and see what happens. Dancing scimitar, first one up. Dancing scimitar. This is old? No. Yes? It comes from the expansion Arabian Nights. Is that like an actual expansion, or is that one of those franchise expansions? I don't know. Either way, it is a 1/5. Holy hell. It does cost 4 to play, though, I guess. Or is it a 4/5? I can't read it. It's too hard. Power to... No, it is a 1/5. It's a 1/5 that costs 4 and it has flying. So, yeah, this is essentially a dancing weapon. Once it is conjured into being, it's just going to go off and do its own thing. As you command, of course, but it acts as its own thing. And this is essentially what all of these living weapon cards are going to be, except this is going to be a lot... This is going to be a lot more broad. Because, like this Flayer Husk, this is not a sword or axe or anything like that. This is a literal dead body of an artifact creature that you can wear. And PC Unicorn says, yes, it was the first ever expansion. Wow. Tell me you have one of those. That's got to be expensive. It's got to be valuable. I wonder. I don't think this thing is going to tell me how much it's actually worth. No, it does not. I'm willing to bet it's very expensive, though. So, here's what we're going to do. We need to make it its own creature. Because of this... That means that it'll have to have its own character sheet, which is something that we'll get into once we get into the actual creature conversion. So we know that the creature is going to end up being a... Because of the way things are converted, a creature with 0/0 is going to have 10/10 for stats. And so anything else that it gets is going to be added on top of that. And PC Unicorn says, yes, I do, but it's a 4th edition reprint. I mean, that kind of sucks, but at the same time, at least you still have one. Although now I am kind of curious as to how much it actually costs. I wonder. Can I look it up on my phone? Can I do this quickly? The answer is no. Of course I can't do it quickly. Let's see. Dancing Scimitar. Magic the Gathering. Price. From Arabian Nights. Let's see if I can find this. I'm looking this up on TCG Player. Which, I don't know if that's good or bad. But, yeah, here we go. Looks like the same art. It's got a little sword for the edition symbol. I think that's Arabian Nights symbol. And it is $15. It does say it's damaged, though. I don't exactly know what they mean by damaged. Is it like cut in half? Did somebody use it as a coaster? Market price, $8.47. Most recent sale was $18.91. Okay, it is not an expensive card. It's not even terribly special. I mean, I guess if you're willing to pay $20 for a trading card, that's kind of significant because it's $20 for a card. But overall, I mean, it's no Black Lotus. Okay, for the living weapon, I think that I'm just going to simply put this equipment is a creature in addition to an equipment. It ceases to be a creature once equipped. I guess PC Unicorn looked it up somewhere else and says from Scryfall, I'm going to assume it's another website that sells cards, $43 for the Arabian edition. Even so, I mean, that's very expensive for a card. I would have a hard time spending that kind of money on cards. But at the same time, again, it's no Black Lotus. So, relatively speaking, not unreasonable. Of course, the cards that I want probably still cost more, so either way. Again, it kind of comes down to what's important to you. Like, if it's worth it to you, it's not that bad. If it's not worth it to you, you'd have a hard time justifying it. I would have a hard time justifying it. Especially since you said that yours is a 4th edition and it's only 45 cents. I can be happy with that one. I'll take the 45-cent one. Alright, so, because living weapons are a creature in addition to being an equipment, they will need a character sheet. That is something that I haven't brought up yet because we haven't done creatures yet, but you're going to need, when we play this game, if you play this game, you will need to have a collection of character sheets. Now, they will be small blocks, okay? Small blocks. They're not going to be like a whole character sheet for every single creature that you have. But you'll need to have a creature sheet just so that you can say, these are the stats for this character. And we will have a system for writing that down that is going to take essentially all the thought out of it. All you'll need to do is just pick and choose to assemble it, and there you go. Alright, next up. Something that is going to be bad, I can already tell. Undying. How is this going to screw up my day? Alright, here's the reminder text. When this creature dies, if it has no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it. Okay, so when it dies, if it had no counters, it gets one. Now, just by, logic or circular logic here, that means that if it dies and it had a counter on it, it then goes to the graveyard, I assume. Which means that this is essentially the inversion of, what was it, fading? No. Yes? What? Hold on. Persist. Persist. When this creature dies, if it had no strength or constitution, penalties prevent damage given this turn, and it gains -1/-1. Right. And then, on the next turn around, if it does die and it had -1/-1, goes to the graveyard. This, kind of the same thing. Except instead of getting weaker, it gets stronger. Did I get it right? Undying's function is similar to persist. See, I think I'm so smart sometimes. A keyword ability from the Shadowmoor block. If the permanent with Undying is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, it returns under its owner control. However, unlike persist, it comes back stronger. PC has -1 counters. Important distinction. Yeah. Persist comes back weaker. Undying comes back stronger. Interestingly, though, because it has a +1/+1 counter on it, there are cards that allow you to move counters. Now, I don't know what they are off the top of my head. You could probably help me out with that one. But I imagine if you had a card that had Undying on it and you could move that 1/1 counter, you would have a 1/1 counter generating machine. Sacrifice the creature by sending it on a suicide run, get the 1/1 counter, move the 1/1 counter somewhere else, and then send your creature in to die again. Because it has no counter, it comes back with a counter, you move the counter, and then just keep doing it. That just sounds horribly broken. Actually, is it really horribly broken, or would that be more work than it was worth? Again, ignoring the fact that things like proliferate exist. Okay, forgetting about that. I'm just thinking that it would be a way to just generate counters. It's on a whole 19 cards. Let's see. Well, here is the site. There's not really a whole lot for us to do here. PC Unicorn says Power Conduit, Artifact. Use it in my deck. That must be one of those that actually moves tokens. Is that it? Let's take a look. Power Conduit. Yep. Remove a counter from one permanent you control and either put a charge counter on an artifact or put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So just have this Undying thing keep generating tokens for you and just keep slapping them on, I don't know, Howard the Duck. Until Howard the Duck is a 24/24 creature. Oh god, is there a Howard the Duck? Tell me there's not a Howard the Duck. Thank you, there's no Howard the Duck. That would have been a terrifying card. It would have been terrifying just for the fact that it existed. Okay, so here's what we can do. We can essentially just copy and paste here. Because they are the same abilities. So we're going to copy. And we're going to paste. The only difference is, if it dies, prevent all damage this turn, and it's going to gain +1 strength. And +1 constitution. Now, here's something interesting, though, that I hadn't considered before. This does not take into account whether you put penalties or bonuses onto it, or anyone else. But then again, you know, I don't think that really matters. Like, what if you could... Oh, and I'm not even sure how this works. I'm not even sure how this works, because this, God, I would need to talk to like an actual rules referee for this one, I think. Undying. When this creature dies, if it had no 1/1 counters on it, return to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it. Okay. I have a question, though. This is Holy Strength. Except I've never actually seen this card artwork before. That is awesome. It's an enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets a +1/+2. Does this count? Or maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way. Hold on. No, this is the wrong question to ask. This is the wrong question to ask because this is absolutely not it. What is the name? What is the name of the ability that I'm trying to think of? Did we already do it? I think we already did it. The ability of those creatures that come in and then they can disperse their tokens to other things. It's like it's not transfigure, I know that much. Oh, now I can't think of it. Either way, there are artifact creatures that can come in, and they come in with a number of tokens on them, and I swear we already did this once. And I can't find it in here. But anyway, creatures come in, and they come in with a certain number of tokens on them. So, for example, it would be like a 3/3 artifact creature, but it's a 0/0, and it comes in with 3 1/1 tokens on it. And then, every turn, they can put a token on something else. I know that PC Unicorn knows exactly what I'm talking about because they are the expert. They know everything. PC Unicorn says modular. See, I told you. PC Unicorn knows everything. This is why this is why I put these things out there. Modular. Okay, so let's say that I have a modular creature out, and it's a 3/3. It's got 3/3 tokens on it, and on my turn, I decide to take my token off. Okay, it's a 1/1 token, and I put it on my undying creature. If my undying creature now dies, is it dead because I put a 1/1 counter on it? It's not its own counter, okay? It didn't put that there. Another creature put it there. Does that still count? I have a feeling it does. And so we're going to have to figure out a way to really distinguish between what is a counter and what is not a counter. Because I just showed Holy Strength. But as PC Unicorn pointed out, not a counter. It's an enchantment. But it is still a bonus. My rules here, however, say if it had no Strength or Constitution penalties, or in this case, any Strength or Constitution bonuses. But that's not true. Because it could have bonuses. It can't have a counter. And PC Unicorn says yes, if it had the counter even from another source, it would die. At least that's what I'm assuming the yes means. This is this is not. This is a problem actually. Here's what I'm going to do. I know what we're going to do with this one, but I'm going to mark those because we have to come back to those. Like, the general idea is good, but we need to find out a way to fine-tune it better. I may need to go back and find some terminology in Pathfinder to help differentiate between what is going to be an enchantment and what is going to be a counter. And I mean, I can do that. There are a multitude of different bonuses. Like, there are enchantment bonuses, of course, obviously, but there are also things called morale bonuses. Morale bonuses are like their own entirely separate category of bonuses. And they are primarily found in bards, obviously, because their entire thing is morale bonuses. Cavaliers often give morale bonuses. Barbarians often have morale bonuses. And those are separate. Like, you can't counterspell morale bonuses. But you can counterspell an enchantment. So we'll have to figure out a way to really differentiate that. Alright, we're going to move on, though. We're going to move on. Because it's still more or less done, it's just got to be tweaked. Next is Miracle. What are we doing for Miracle? Because this sounds broken. So it was introduced in Avacyn? I'm going to say Avacyn because I'm not sure. Avacyn Restored. It allows a powerful spell to be cast for a low cost if and when it is the first card drawn each turn. Well, that sounds weird. If it is the first card drawn each turn, I don't understand. So I guess it's the card that you drew on your turn. I guess that would force you to actually reveal it. But I guess to play it, you would have to reveal it. So you would pick it up from the deck, and then you would just play it before it touched your hand. That way you could never be accused of having already held it. So as long as it's played before it ever goes into your hand, it can be played for the miracle cost. At least that's what I'm assuming. Provides alternative cost. If it was the first card drawn during a turn, the timing of casting is similar to the timing for casting cards with Madness. Did we do Madness? I don't know if we did Madness. Looking. I'm not... No, wait, hold on. Madness, here we go. We skipped that one because we said it was not applicable. I'm just going to go back here and review. Let's see. Keyword ability allows a player to cast a spell for an alternate cost if the card is discarded. Right, and since you can't discard in Pathfinder, then it doesn't really take any kind of effect. So I suppose the same thing is probably going to be true with Miracle, because you're not drawing any cards, and anything that really takes place on draw doesn't really have an effect. Now, I suppose that doesn't mean to say that you could not still get these cards. It just means that you wouldn't be able to use the Miracle cost. Miracle was popular if polarizing and had developmental issues. It, for example, requires you to change how you draw your cards, even if you want to make your opponent think you might be playing it. Rosewater thinks it will come back if R&D can solve the issues surrounding it. They once even toyed with the idea of a different colored card backs for Miracles. Well, I can see a problem with that, number one, because if you're playing without sleeves, you would know what's coming up next. Your opponent would know what's coming up next. And so, I mean, it's pretty well telegraphed at that point. And if you are playing with card sleeves, then it wouldn't matter, because you can't see it anyway. And given the number of double-sided cards these days, you kind of have to play with card sleeves. It's like not even really an option anymore. Let's see. But I want to take a look at a Miracle card before we just skip these and say it's not really going to be a thing. Banishing Stroke. So it costs 6 to play. However, if you pull off a Miracle, it only costs 1 to play. Put target artifact, creature, or enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library. I mean, honestly, that's not bad. there are cards that would do that cheaper or for the same price. Which means that essentially you're just paying 6 more, or 6 for a card that would cost you 1 or 2 normally. In other words, this card is only useful if you play it as a miracle. Otherwise, it is taking up space in your hand. And only play it in like an absolute emergency. Here's the thing, I don't see this really having a place because, again, we don't draw cards. So, I think we're just gonna... We're just gonna not applicable this one. You're not drawing cards, you already know all the spells that you know. You don't have to worry about luck. Alright, so that's gonna let us move on to Soul Bond. So this one is also from VIII Restored. It pairs up your creatures with each other. I think we saw this one already. Didn't we? We had Soul Shift. When a creature with Soul Shift dies, raise a previously destroyed spirit. Right. Bushido, Sunburst. No, maybe we didn't do this one already. Maybe we already looked at it though. Because we have looked ahead to see other things before. Okay, Soul Bond. Let's take a look. You may pair this creature with another unpaired creature. When either one enters, they remain paired for as long as you control both of them. It appears on 24 cards. A perfectly even number. Wouldn't it be awkward if Soul Bond came in and it was an odd number? Alright, so it can choose another unpaired creature under your control. The creatures are considered paired with each other. Each player may also choose not to pair with another creature and then choose to pair with another creature when that creature enters. Okay. And then, of course, I assume they get bonuses. Let's take a look. Wingcrafter. So it's a 1/1 that costs 1 to play, and it comes in with Soul Bond. As long as the Wingcrafter is paired with another creature, both of them have flying. So, pretty simple, actually. And exactly what I expected to see from it. And it's also the only example they give. Yeah, I think that this can be pretty much just translated directly. So, yeah, I'm just gonna copy this. There's no, it's super simple. It's kind of perfect. We'll default format that, and then we'll grab the format painter. There we go. You may pair this creature with another unpaired creature. When either one enters the battlefield, they remain paired as long as you control both of them. Which, you know, could lead you to making a collection of soul-bonded creatures, which is going to be a legitimate strategy they used in the actual decks. That's kind of going to be one of the points. I don't know. I like it. It's not overpowered. It's not broken. They can only pair with one other creature, so it's not like you're going to end up with a sliver case where the more you add in, the worse they get. I don't know. I like it. It's simple. Simple is good. Okay, next. Overload. That sounds fun. It's from the Return to Ravnica as a mechanic for the Izzet Guild. Oh, I like the Izzet Guild. That's my guild. We're gonna have fun. What does it do? Okay, Overload. You may cast the spell for its overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target with each. Okay. I'm gonna need an example here. Street Spasm. Here we go. So it costs X plus red to play. And it deals X damage to target creature without flying you do not control. However, if you overload it for X... Oh, the overload is X, red, red? Oh, it literally says that. XX, red, red. You may pay the spell for the overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target to each. So it deals X damage to each creature without flying that you don't control. I mean, I like it. It sounds fun. It's one of those cards that I don't necessarily know how useful it's going to be because it's going to be very level dependent. So, like, you could not even cast this spell until... Because it costs X plus red, you could cast this at level 2, and it would do 1 damage. However, it would scale. If we looked at this being cast by a level 20 Planeswalker, okay? A level 20 Planeswalker being able to hold 20 mana at any given time, and assuming, of course, that the land would support it. Because the last time we looked at this, I think this used to be a 2, so I'm going to change that to a 2. We just take a look at this land example we got here. That's 4, 7, 9, 11, 14. So this particular patch of land only has 14 mana available in it at any given time. So if you were to try and cast this as an overload, the first thing we do is we say, how much mana do we have? 14. 2 of that has to go into paying this cost. So we're now down to 12. Now for the XX, I guess we just got to split those equally. And so 12 split equally is going to be 6, meaning that you could do 6 damage to each creature without flying that I don't control. Which, you know, is still significant, especially since what we're talking about here, because the mana cost determines the number of dice, and in this case also the damage, it would be 14 for the number of dice, d6s, to everything. That would be kind of insane. However, we're talking pretty high level stuff there, so yeah, it would be interesting. It could easily be very devastating. It could also be very weak, depending on how the dice roll comes out. Again, this is one of those where I don't think we have to really change much of anything because the text is simple. We just gonna copy this directly. Default format this one. Oh, come on. There we go. Alright, you may cast a spell for the overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target with each. And yeah, that should be fine. Alright, super simple. Moving on. Next is Scavenge. That sounds interesting. This was introduced in Return to Ravnica as a mechanic for the Golgari Guild. They are not my guild. If I remember right, they're black-white. I'm red-blue. Alright, so scavenge. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a number of negative or +1/+1 counters equal to this card's power on target creature. Scavenge only as a sorcery. Okay, so... like, immediately we don't have a graveyard as such. We had talked about your graveyard being the inverse of your mana pool. But even then... I'm not sure how we make this work. So, here we go. A Dreg Mangler. Let's take a look at an example. It costs 1 plus black-green to play. It's a 3/3 with haste and has scavenge. The scavenge cost is 3 plus black-green. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put a number of 1/1 counters equal to the card's power on target creature. Scavenge only as a sorcery. We can make this work. We can make this work. PC Unicorn's correcting me and says black-green. Actually, black-white is Orzhov. Okay, I got that wrong. That's my bad. That explains why this is a black-green creature. I don't know all the guilds. I just know mine, because mine's the only one that's important. The Izzet Guild is the best guild. Okay? And you know why? You know why? Because we have a dragon. Alright? Don't screw with the dragon. It's well known that Niv Mizzet's an asshole. So, if you don't want to be crunchy with ketchup, just, you know, don't mess with the Izzet Guild. Okay, either way, though, I think we can make this one work. So, I'm going to ignore everything from the graveyard part of this, okay? Forget about it. I don't care. I don't need it. This is allowing you to take things off of the already dead creature. And I'm curious if... I don't think this is going to come from anything that's not a creature? Is it? Collapse? No. Alright, I gotta see this. So we're looking for scavenge. Are they all creatures? Because if they are, I know how to make this work. PC Unicorn says, Izzet also has adorable otters in Bloomsboro. Well, see, this is just, again, further proof that Izzet is the superior guild, okay? Look, I don't make the rules. That's actually a lie. I'm the GM. I actually do make the rules. So, yes, Izzet is the best guild. And why is this not working? Scavenge. Text does contain scavenge. Why? Now you're making me angry. Okay? Now you're making me angry. Here. Copy. And paste. You can't even accuse me now of having spelled it wrong. What the absolute hell? Flavor text. Username. No, I don't care about any of that stuff. I need to see scavenge cards. And I don't know how to get them. Okay, no, I can't just look these up by set, because that's hundreds of cards, and I could never get through all of them. I don't know. I have to go ahead and just assume that they're going to be all creatures. I have no other way of really making this work. Let's see. There's also this one is Oil Scavenge. Keyword ability allows you to exile a card from the graveyard for the sorcery cost. Place oil counters on a power creature. This mechanic appeared in the Phyrexian Esthetician test card at the Philadelphia 2023 Unknown event. It's the equivalent of scavenge oil counters instead of +1 counters. As such, the cost is much more aggressive, as fewer permanents can make use of them. I don't care. I'm not gonna worry about that. It's cool, I'm sure, but I'm not gonna worry about that. So here's what we're gonna do. After the, let's see, yeah. After the creature is dead, you may scavenge for the scavenge cost. And then we're simply going to put a number of 1/1 counters equal to this card's power into our creature. Do I need to put that in there? I guess I kind of do. And this comes down to what are we doing for counters as well. This is going to put us back in the same position that Undying had us in. I don't know what counters are yet. I can't just give it a generic +1/+1 strength constitution because of things like Undying. Because let's say that I had a creature with scavenge, okay? It died. I pay the scavenge cost. I take the 3 1/1 tokens that I just got from my scavenge creature. I put them on my Undying creature. Now my Undying creature dies. Because it had counters on it, it's dead. Completely. And so I gotta be able to keep track of these counters separately. I'm going to leave this as it is, and I'm going to highlight this to come back to. Because all of these things that we got to come back to, for the same reason. Once we solve one, we've solved all of them. Alright, we're moving on. So that was Scavenge, now we get to do Unleash. Again, Ravnica, this is part of the Rakdos Guild. I want to say red-green? Nope, red-black. Looking down here. So, I mean, I was half right. It's only on 13 cards. But that's kind of a thing with the Ravnica sets, because it's always split between the guilds. Every single one of these rules only really applies to a very small set of cards. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't annoyed. Okay, so for Unleash, you may have this creature enter with a 1/1 counter on it. It cannot block so long as it has a 1/1 counter on it. Again, we come to the issue with the counters. And also can't block. Let's remember that we made it so that blocking is the equivalent of an attack of opportunity. So when this creature comes in, if it has a counter on it, it can't block, meaning that if it came in with the same bonus, it can no longer make attacks of opportunity. Which is something that you could absolutely capitalize on. If it can't make attacks of opportunity, you can do things like literally run right past it. Which seems a little bit weird, but, you know, that's how the rules work. So, again, I can use these rules pretty much as written, but we still got to figure out how we're going to work with the counters. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. First things first, because we're dealing with counters again, I got to color that orange. And then we'll just format painter this. Because this works as it is. It's great. I like it. I need to have a different rule. But either way, we can move on to Cipher. This is going to be a blue guild. Yes, actually, keyword introduced in Gate Crash, where it is the Demir Guild mechanic. It also appeared in Dragon's Maze and designed by Rosewater. Let's see. The Demir Guild are blue and black. Makes sense. Let's see. You may exile this spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the card without paying its mana cost. Well, that sounds horrifying. Okay, so it says, Cipher appears on some instants and sorceries. It represents two abilities. First, the spell ability that functions while the spell is a cipher and is on the stack. The second is a static ability that functions while the card is a cipher in the exile zone. Cipher means if the spell is represented by a card, you may exile this card encoded on a creature you control. So long as it's encoded on the creature, it has, whenever the creature deals combat damage to a player, you may copy the encoded card and cast the copy without the mana cost. This is complicated. But it's blue, so of course it's complicated. Alright, so here we go. Whispering Madness. Let's take a look at their example. That is a lot of text. Alright, so what does it say? Each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards the player discarded this way. So I guess if one of you has 6 cards and the other one has 3 cards, everyone discards their hand and draws 6 cards. That can get annoying quickly. So you can also cipher it. You can exile this spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever the creature deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a copy with or for no spell cost. And just say you may. So you're not forced to. Okay, so how do we want to do this and try to make it as simple as possible? So we're not really exiling anything, so let's see if we can skip that entirely. Forget the exile part. If we forget the exile part and just we just delete this much. Alright, so delete that. It doesn't exist. Then we're left with spell card encoded on a creature you control. It's not perfect English, but it works. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, or in this case a planeswalker, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying the mana cost. Something that I don't see in here is, do you actually have to pay for the card to encode it? Or do you have to play it first? because there's no cost associated with Decipher. Let's see, rulings. The spell with Decipher is encoded on a creature as part of that spell's resolution just after the spell's other effects. That card goes directly from the stack to exile. It never goes into the graveyard. Okay, so I guess you have to play the spell first, and then it attaches to a creature. You choose the creature as the spell resolves. The Decipher ability doesn't target that creature, although the spell with Decipher may target that creature or different creature because of its other abilities. If the spell with Decipher is countered, none of its effects will happen, including the Decipher. The card will go to its owner's graveyard and won't be encoded. If the creature leaves the battlefield, the exiled card is no longer encoded to the creature. It will stay exiled. If you want to encode the card with Decipher onto a non-creature permanent, such as a key rune that can turn into a creature, that permanent has to be a creature before the spell with Decipher starts resolving. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess you have to actually cast the spell first, and then it can attach. Alright. So, knowing that, and knowing that they didn't even bother to put that in the rules, I think that I can just take this. So we'll take this much, and we don't even need to worry about the exile part. So we'll default format that one. We'll format painter it like this. Okay. However, I do think I'm going to add something on here. So I'm going to say after casting the spell card is encoded on a creature you control. Alright, I think that's better. I think that's much clearer. After casting the spell, it is encoded on a creature you control whenever that creature does combat damage to a player. They may cast copy of the encoded. Now, this is going to get a little bit complicated because when we take into example this Whispering Madness, each player discards his or her hand and then draws an equal number of the greatest number of cards they discarded this way. You don't draw cards. Ergo, the best circumstance that I can think for this one is if the discard takes effect. And with discard and milling, I think will end up being more or less the same thing, where they're just going to destroy your spells per day. At least that's what I can think of so far. But we'll get to that when we get into the other keywords, the actual rules and stuff that we probably should have done first before we did any of this. I could go back to the other ones now, but I'm not going to. I'm pretty committed. Besides, we're on number 100. Okay? We made it to number 100. There's still a fair number of these to go, but I mean, we're making it. Alright, Evolve. So this was also introduced in Gatecrash. It serves as the guild mechanic for the Simic Combine. I've never even heard of you guys. Blue, black, and green? Weird. Alright, so what does Evolve do? Let's see. Whenever a creature you control enters, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. again, we're getting into counters. See, the problem with this is that normally, and this is what I was doing before, I would just say that if a stronger creature comes into the battlefield, this creature is going to get +1 strength, +1 constitution. But because of things like persistent, well, specifically because of things like undying, I have to change that a little bit. God, you know, my life would be so much easier if I just got rid of undying in general. Like, if I got rid of undying, I could just go through and do this as usual. But there are things like power conduit that I have to take into consideration, so some of these things do need to be transferable anyway. I gotta find a solution for it. Honestly, the rules on this is pretty good. I would have to change a few things, but I wonder what their example is. Their example is the Fathom Mage. So it costs 2 green-blue. It's a 1/1 with Evolve. And whenever you put a 1/1 counter on the Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. I love drawing cards. If I played green, I would have to get one of these. But I don't play green, so I won't. Let's see. So how do we want to do this? I guess I'm going to copy this, and then I'll just do a little bit of editing to the words. So we'll go default formatting, we'll format paint to this, and then we'll do a little bit of doctoring. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater strength or constitution than this creature, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Put a 1/1 counter on the creature. I just had an idea. Oh, I just had an idea. What if we actually just left them as tokens? What if instead of me trying to translate this, what if I literally leave them as counters that you can keep track of on the character sheet? And every counter simply gives a +1 to strength and a +1 to constitution. It would essentially be like a separate spell list. Just like if we go into the spells and I look up something like, say, let me go to the wizard spell list, bear. Okay, where's bear? Bear's endurance. Here we go. Bear's endurance, the subject gains a +4 constitution for 1 minute per level. There's one of these for every single one of the ability scores. And this is really simple. The affected creature gains a greater vitality and stamina. The spell grants the subject a +4 enhancement bonus. So remember I was talking about different bonuses. There's enchantments. There's morale. These are enhancement bonuses, which adds the usual benefits of hit points, fortitude saves, constitution checks, and so forth. Hit points gained by a temporary increased constitution score are not temporary hit points, and they do go away when the subject's constitution drops back to normal. They are not lost first, as temporary hit points are. Which, by the way, that means that if you get this and you're, say, level, I don't know, 5, okay? So if you're level 5, you get this +4 enhancement to your constitution bonus. +4 bonus to your constitution is going to increase your constitution bonus by 2. That means that you will pick up 2 hit points for every level that you have. 2 hit points per level times 5 levels is 10 hit points. Simple math. Here's where it gets really insidious, though. Let's say you're in a fight, and you're at 7 hit points when the fight ends. As soon as Bear's Endurance ends, you lose those 10 hit points. You go down to -3. You are now dying. So, something to bear in mind. Okay, I think that'll work though. We're just going to establish a counter bonus, which sounds a little bit weird when I say it, but I do think a counter bonus is going to work. We're not going to introduce that into the rules as we're writing them, but when we do the other rules for things like, you know, what is a draw, what is a mill, what is a tap, all of these things, that's where the counters will be. And a counter is just going to be a +1 to strength or a +1 to constitution, depending on what the counter says. Which means that when this, for like Undying, when this creature dies, if it had no strength or constitution penalties, prevent damage this turn, it gains +1/+1 constitution. What we could say is if it had no counter bonuses. What did I just do here? Why are you all screwed up now? Okay, there we go. Fixed. Alright, so when this creature dies, if it had no counter bonuses, prevent the damage this turn, and it gains +1 strength and +1 constitution. And we're just going to go ahead and do this. It's going to be a +1/+1 counter bonus. And honestly, that should be everything that we need. And then by simply making it so that we have a strict definition for counter bonuses, being that it is a plus X or -X, +/-X strength and +/-X constitution, every card is then readable by a single definition. I think that's perfect. I like this. Okay, so for Evolve, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say greater strength or constitution, then this creature put a +1/+1 counter bonus on this creature, because we're not going to have actual counters. I mean, you probably will for your character sheet, but that's regardless. And this is perfect. So put a +1/+1 counter bonus on this creature, giving it +1 strength and +1 constitution. I like it. This is great. Okay, we got to keep this one in mind for when we do the next set of rules. All right, but we are running out of time, so let's move on to the next one. Next up is Extort, which sounds fun. This is also in Gatecrash. It's from the Orzhov Syndicate. Yay, black and white people. Okay, I actually have a few of their cards. I like their cards. So let's see. Extort. Whenever you cast a spell, you may pay black or white. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. So it's really only useful in like games with 3 or 4 people. I think I've only done that a couple of times in my life, so I'm not sure how terribly useful this is. I mean, it still tips the scales. Your opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. That's not the worst thing in the world. You may pay this a maximum of 1 time for each extort triggered ability. You decide whether to pay when the ability resolves. So, for example, here's the Treasury Thrall. It costs 4 plus 1 white plus 1 black. It's a 4/4 creature, and it has Extort. Whenever you play or you cast a spell, you may pay black-white. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. Oh, wait, hold on. Whenever you cast a spell, not this spell. Oh my god. Wait, hold on. You may pay a maximum of 1 time for each extort triggered ability. You decide whether to pay when the ability resolves. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, I misunderstood this. If you had a whole bunch of creatures with Extort, and every time you play a spell, you can pay their Extort cost, you're not taking 1 life. You're taking 1 life per extortion. Meaning you could take many life points every time you play a spell. Oh, okay, yeah, that's bad. That's nasty. I mean, I like it, but that's mean. Okay, this is gonna get real interesting because, let's see, whenever you cast a spell, you may pay black or white. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. So here's the thing that we have to differentiate. It specifically says each opponent. The creatures on the board are not your opponent. They may be in your way, but you're not fighting them, you're fighting the other planeswalkers, so we have to make sure that this only affects planeswalkers. However, your opponents in Pathfinder may not necessarily be planeswalkers. You could be fighting actual people. And this should affect them. So we don't want to restrict it specifically to planeswalkers, we want to exclude summoned creatures. Okay, we got this. So we're gonna start with this. And I'm going to default format this. And unfortunately, this picture here doesn't work. So whenever you cast spell, you may pay black or white. Next, if you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. This is where we got to be careful. So, the only thing that would be on the battlefield that would have life would be creatures. So, if you do each... And if I say non-creature, then it's going to consider things like artifact stuff, but they don't have life anyway. So I'm going to say each non-creature, because planeswalkers and humans and everything are not going to be considered creatures. Okay, creatures will specifically be considered outsiders. But then again, planeswalkers are also going to be considered outsiders, so yeah, I can't use the outsider thing. I'm going to say each non-creature... Actually, no, even better. Each non-summoned creature. That should make that really simple. So as long as it wasn't summoned, it's affected. If you do, each non-summoned creature loses 1 HP, and you gain that much HP. And I want to say that specifically because that way it's however much you took from everyone else, that's what you're going to gain. So if you're in a fight with a whole bunch of bandits on the road, maybe there's a dozen bandits on the road, maybe they even have a planeswalker with them, you know, low level, but a planeswalker all the same. You cast this, and they are going to lose HP. Now, interestingly, normally we would say this would be determined by, number one, the dice roll, or the number of dice would be the mana cost, which in this case would be 4/4, and then the power would be 4, but this is a creature. It literally says you just gain 1. So I think we're just going to have to leave it as 1. It's going to make it so it's not as effective as you level up, but I guess it's better than nothing? Alright. I think we can get one more in. Just one more. We're going to do Fuse. Alright, Fuse is a keyword featured on split cards from Dragon's Maze. Dragon's Maze? Is that like an actual edition, or is that like this Fallout one? I don't know. Fuse. Oh, wait, it's these cards. I have a couple of these. These are weird. So, anytime you could cast a split card with Fuse, you can choose 1/2 and cast it just like any other split card. Can you not cast both of them? I don't know if you can cast both or just one. I don't know. I guess this is a great time to learn. No, wait, it literally says you can cast one or both halves of this card from your hand. I actually don't like these cards, I'm going to be honest with you. I do think they're very clever. Okay? I think they're very clever. And I appreciate the clever. However, if you had a whole bunch of these Fuse cards, it would essentially mean that you could hold up to 14 cards in your hand, and I think that that's wrong. I think that just kind of breaks the rules. Let's see. So Fuse allows players to cast both halves of their split card from their hand by paying the mana cost of each individual card. Casting a Fuse spell counts as casting only one spell, not 2. 10 years after its introduction in Dragon's Maze, a new card Fuse appeared in Universes Beyond Doctor Who. Reprints appeared in March of the Machine Commander and Fallout. Okay, so getting into the rulings, if you're casting a split card with Fuse from any zone other than your hand, you can't cast both halves. You can only cast 1/2 or the other. To cast a fused split spell, you need to pay both of the mana costs. For example, Down and Dirty. And see, this is why I actually like these cards. They are clever. I mean, every single one of them is a pun or a turn of phrase or something like that. So Down and Dirty, you can pay 4 And target player discards 2 cards, or dirty, pay 3, and return target card from your graveyard to your hand. And it says to cast a fused split spell, pay both of the mana costs. For example, it costs 3 plus black and 2 plus green. So to play both halves, you need to pay 5 plus black green. Obviously. While it's on the stack, its converted mana cost is 7. Now see, I kind of have a problem with these cards because I feel like these break the spirit of the game. And while I'm not generally inclined to ban cards outright, this is one of those things that I might actually just go ahead and straight up ban. We already have a lot of cards that do give you a lot of flexibility, but this is essentially skirting the rules to get 2 spells for 1 slot. Now, we already have it set that we're disregarding a lot of the rules as it is. You get a number of spells known up to 40 here, and you can play a number of spells at level 20 up to 60. Okay? With this to mirror a constructed 60-card deck, and the spells known also mirrors a constructed deck where you'd have maybe 1/3 being lands and 40 spells. However, according to constructed rules, you can only have 4 of any one card in your deck. And we've already done away with that. So if you want to cast 6 Raging Goblins, there is no reason why you can't pay 6. These, however, I feel are just bad for the game. They're fun. I will admit they're fun. But so is every single one of the unsets. The unglued, unhinged, unraveled, all of those. Those are fun cards too. But they're not legal. In like 99.9% of the time, they're not legal. I think this has got to go in the same category. I like the cards, I do. But I just think that they're too dangerous to the game. So this is going to be the first time I do this. It's probably not going to be the last one. However, I gotta say it, fused cards are banned. And like I said, I feel bad doing it because I don't like to take things away from the players. But this is one of those cases where for the good of the game, it's got to be done. Okay, though. We're out of time for today. I mean, I could go longer, but I got other things that I got to take care of. So when we get back here next time, we'll work on Bestow. What is Bestow? Keywork ability introduced in Theros, where we're connected to a god theme in the set. Okay, I have no idea what this set even is. I've never even heard of it. But we'll find out what it is next time. So, for now, we made pretty good progress there. Oh, I just turned it off. How many did we do today? We started with Infect, which was awful. Which means that we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And including Fuse is 13. Unlucky 13 got banned. That's not bad, though. We're over 100 of these done. We still got a lot to go, though. There's going to be a few up here that are also going to be banned just because they're going to come from some of the... They're going to come from some of the what do you call them? The franchise decks. I saw it in the other one. Now I can't remember what it was. Wasn't the Extort? No, it was something else. I don't remember. Either way, those abilities are not going to have a place in here, so we won't need to worry about those. So we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. We're going to get through these. It's just going to take us a little bit longer. I'd say if we keep going at like a dozen or so each time, maybe we got 6 more of these sessions to go. Whew, it's a lot. I mean, this one may be one of the longer ones. It's not going to be Warhammer long, but it's going to be one of the longer ones. Okay, though, so we'll pick this up next week, and if you want to see what happens next week with all these different abilities and how we can possibly turn a card game into a tabletop game, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody who's also into either Magic the Gathering or Pathfinder, then share this video with them. Otherwise, though, if you just like what we're doing here, you like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video. You want to leave a comment? You can do that down below. You want to leave more comments? Join the Discord. We have one. And if you want to play with us, you got to be on it. If you want to play with us, you got to join the Discord, go to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know what you want to play and what your availability is. And once I've got a full group, we can get started. So, join us there, do that. Hope to see you there. Hope to see you next week. And until then, take care.